I am about to tell you a story of something that happened to me at a game store recently, and I take no official joy in having to describe this or imagine a situation in which that somebody would like having an experience like this. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes I've ever seen in a retail environment, and actually I'd venture to say it is the worst thing I've ever seen a retailer do to me. Here we go, guys. On April 21st of 2021, less than a month prior to the filming of this video, I decided I wanted to go out game hunting. I hadn't hit up many local game stores in a while, so I was hoping to find some fun stuff to buy, to collect, play, or all of those. As a preface, this game shopping was done in the Portland metro area of Oregon. Despite my channel name, as some of you might be curious, this is the current region in which I reside. That said, there are only so many game stores out here that aren't pawn shops or goodwills, which usually aren't overly fruitful, so I had a few bucks to mess with and figured I'd go enjoy the day. Unfortunately, in the middle of the afternoon on the 21st of April, I experienced the worst, how do I say this? Gaffe? Botch? Insult to my intelligence? How about the absence of business ethics? A perfect example of a flagrant mistake that I'm starting to hear more about in the games industry, specifically with smaller game stores. This experience is the worst change in about face I've seen from a vendor personally, and the worst example of the issue I'm about to describe. No retailer has ever done this to me before, so here we go. Game Wizards is a foundational game company in this region, specializing in buying, selling, and trading, I guess you could say, video games and accessories. In general, for years, it has been a place I'd go to shop for games and other fun things that have been released in this industry. My first visit to Game Wizards was around 2010 and have considered it an option for me in all of its forms. Game Wizards every year has a very huge booth at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, which is a fantastic event each year here. But enough about that. Here's what happened. I went into the store and said hello to the guy working there and started looking all around the place. I really didn't know what I was looking for in particular, so it took me a bit of time to view what Game Wizards had to sell. After a short while, I asked and got the attention of the guy working there and asked to take a look at a few things in and out of his glass cases. When you go into their store, just to the right is a long series of glass cases, and in one of the first cases they had stocked a few PSP games. One of those was Wild Arms XF. The price clearly posted on the front with a sticker of $100. More on that price later. I asked him to take the copy out so I could see it, as I wasn't overly familiar with the title. It turned out it was a new copy, which he commented on before I ever really noticed it was sealed. I told him I'd like to buy it and to please hold it up front for me while I looked around more. I asked him to show me a few other games further down from this one, and also asked him to please hold a copy of Lunar Dragon Song as well. After I asked him to hold those copies up front, while I took around, he got busy, taking some calls, helping a kid and his grandfather, trading some things, and a group of 3 guys who were in the store for a bit buying things from around his cash register area. The kid, the grandfather, and the 3 guys were no longer in the store after a bit while I was looking around. Now that I've set the scene, this is where things start to go very wrong. While I was looking at some of his PS3 titles in a slider case, he says to me from the counter, "I can't sell you that game." Presuming he was talking about Wild Arms XF, my stomach sank. He says, "We don't do this very often, but when a game changes greatly in price online, we have to change it." My response initially, as I was feeling pretty docile at the time, I responded, "It is what it is." What he says next frankly floored me, and to be honest with anybody watching this video, I'd like to clarify that I've never had a retailer ever say or do anything like this before. But are you ready for this? Mind you, this game had a tag on the front of it that said $100. This guy didn't raise the price by $10 or $20. Not 30, not 40, not 50. He didn't raise the price by $70 or $80, not 90 or even 100. Not 110, not 120, not even $150. Not 160, not 180 or 190, but dear God in heaven, this man raises the price of this game by $200 for a total of $300. Again, this game had a $100 price tag on the front of it. He then tells me that a used copy of Wild Arms Online is selling for $300 and he'd have to ask at least that for it. I would also like to note that from the sound of his voice, it sounded like he didn't even want to sell it to me for that. I think he wanted to ask even more money for it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Let's think about what he's doing here for a second. A games retailer with a clear price on his game has a customer agree to buy his copy of said game for the price the retailer is asking. The retailer goes online, presumably on eBay, and decides that because it's selling for more on there that he's going to raise the price. Not by a little, but by $200, and even sounded as if he was non-committal at that price. So then now I'm standing directly in front of the counter with him, and he asks me, "Are you buying it to collect or play?" I'm thinking in my head, why does that matter? My response was, I don't know. I wasn't sure if I'd take off the wrapper and play this copy, if I'd just collect it, so I really didn't know. He then says, "If you're buying it to play, I'll just buy a disc copy of it and eat the cost, and just give that to you." My response after milling around what he said for a second was, "No thanks, I'll pass." When I realized how ridiculous of a concession he was making, I knew that there wouldn't be any transaction made here, and I mean at all. He was burning me and trying to make up for a mistake he made, or at least he thought he made. To clarify, when I buy games, when I look for them, I want them complete. And even as a buy-off from this retailer, this was a total joke to me. I then told him, "Have a good day," and I walked out of the store with nothing. With nothing! I was hoping in my mind that this guy had made a brazenly poor judgment call and was going to come to his senses and sell me the game as I had intended to buy it, so I got into my car, directly out front of the store, mind you, and sat in it for a bit, hoping he would come out and change his mind. He could see the car I got into, but obviously, he never came out and changed his mind, and then I left. Since the 21st of April when I visited that store, I knew I had to make this video to show you how you can get burned in this industry. In a legitimate game store, and even worse, a game store who is a backbone to some of the events that happen in this region. The way I knew even weeks later that this situation needed video attention, that I absolutely 100% had to do this, is that I'm still mad about it. I've never been treated this way by anyone in a game store, or any retailer I've done business with across the now many years I've been alive. You know what I believe may be even the worst thing about this entire story? Arguably so? Can you believe this? The guy that was working that day wasn't just an employee. I have every reason to believe he's the owner of this company. I recognize him from previous visits to his store and the game conventions and swap meets. You don't change your prices, and you sure as hell don't change them by hundreds of dollars. This is a real event that happened, folks, and I'm greatly saddened that at this juncture I can't do business with them again. But wait, there's more. A few days before the filming of this video, I watched another YouTuber show off some of their gaming collection and helped to educate us on what his games were worth and what he had. Always a fun video in my opinion. One of the games in his video was Wild Arms XF. The game that I was so ridiculously punished for attempting to buy. The prices he flashed on screen were not what I was expecting. I had not done any research on this Wild Arms game before or even after my experience as far as cost until I saw this YouTuber's video. I then went to video game price charts and looked at what it said. What you're seeing is information from just a few days ago about what new, used, and loose values for Wild Arms XF are. Remember, I went into their store on April 21st of 2021. Take note. Then, I went to eBay's sold listings for Wild Arms XF. Notice anything illicitly odd about this? Only one copy of this game, even new, was sold for more than $100, even since around the time I went to Game Wizards. Hey guys, future Miami Sunrise here. I wanted to update a little bit more, and even more currently, as to a couple of more sales that I've seen pop up on eBay since this time. Mind you, I was in their store on April 21st. The two most recent sales I found on eBay are May 9th. One for $120 generally used, and the other one for $121.45 generally used. And those are the only ones that I could find on eBay since the May 4th sale, which is at $77. Where here do we see the necessity of asking me to pay $300 for a new copy? Especially considering the fact that the used copy is what he was basing this off of. He said, I need to raise this price on you to $300 because that's what used versions of this game are going for. There is no evidence of anything I've seen up to this point that say used games for Wild Arms XF was going for $300. There is no proof of that whatsoever. So I have to presume, again, this is more recent information. Yes, the price has risen a little bit, okay? But no, the game never sold for $300 used. I don't know where he's getting this information from, and even if there was a copy that I've somehow missed, how does that outlier out of all this information suggest you needed to raise the price $200 to sell me this game, and then sound non-committal about it? Beats the hell out of me. My guess is that this guy went online and foolishly decided that because he saw one seller attempting to get $400 new for this game, that I needed to pay way more for it. The $300 he jacked his sales price up to, for me, is baseless and arrogantly off. I have to assume he only saw the highest number for this game possible, and in most cases, those tend to be outliers. Sellers on eBay who usually don't have to sell their game, but ask for extraordinary prices mainly because they can, not because they're following trends. Again, unbelievable. About a half hour after I went to Game Wizards, I visited another game store, not long prior, that being SideQuest Games, farther to the east. The games that I bought from them, a collector's edition of the Guided Fate Paradox for PS3 and a copy of 3D Dot Game Heroes for PS3, came to a total of $90. Guess what SideQuest did, and did it right? They sold me those games for the exact sales price that they asked me to pay. I went to Pink Gorilla in Seattle about a week prior to having this terrible experience. Everything I bought was sold to me at the price they asked. So why did all of this happen? To tell you the truth, I don't know. Greed? Possibly. Bad business ethics? Definitely. Arrogance? Sure, could be that too. It really could be anything. When you as a retailer post a price, I expect you to uphold it. And this isn't a situation where you went to a car dealer and they're selling a new car for $150. That's an obvious mistake you expect to have to be rectified before you actually bought the car. People have asked me why not just email the company and work it out from afar instead of making this video. You want to know why I'm doing it this way? Because there are more people out there that have run into this problem. I know there are, because there are other YouTubers that have commented on something like this. I have to say that my example of it is probably the worst version of it I've heard of, but there are game stores out there that, due to their own miscalculations of greed or ideals, mental displacement, have decided that they're going to go ahead and change prices on people. Just in my case, it was so bad that it was like, basically you're asking me to walk out of your store and that's that, and never come back. So I thought it was better to tell my story here. This is an absolutely true event, no matter what you hear from anybody else in the future. And I just hope that it goes to show that if you're a legitimate business and you screw your customers, you don't get good responses from those people, especially in the world of technology that we're in now, where you can make a video like this. Thank you for everyone that watched this video, and I think you'll be seeing me again. Oh yeah.